We have long known that we don't just live in a world of money, but in a world of money architects. This is not a conspiracy theory or some secret knowledge reserved for the chosen few. It's a banal reality, so familiar that it no longer raises any questions. Bankers, funds, investment houses, regulators, and rating agencies are not separate elements, but a single mechanism that sets the rules of the game long before you even enter it. You were born already inside a system where everything is predetermined. How you will study, what you will use for treatment, what kind of debt you will live in, and under what conditions you will work, as well as until what age you will remain economically useful. Education teaches obedience and hierarchy, pharmaceuticals foster lifelong dependency, banks lead to credit slavery, and the labor market creates the illusion of choice. And all of this is wrapped in a beautiful package of freedom, progress, and technological development. But if you strip away this packaging, underneath you'll find the same old principle: control through financial levers. Money stopped being a means of exchange a long time ago. It has become a tool for controlling behavior, thinking, and the future. 1971 was a turning point, but most people didn't even notice that the world changed irreversibly at that moment. The abolition of the gold standard was not just an economic decision, but a philosophical shift. Money stopped being something limited and physically backed. It turned into numbers that can be created endlessly if you have the power to print, lend, and regulate. From that moment on, the debt model became not a temporary tool, but the foundation of the entire global economy. But something else is even more important. While the masses argued about exchange rates, inflation, and wages, a quiet coup took place within the banking elite itself. The old dynasties and traditional banks gave way to a new form of power, the power of those who manage capital. These are no longer banks in the usual sense. This is a superstructure above banks, corporations, states, and even central regulators. This is a level where laws are not made, but reality is shaped so that those laws become inevitable. That is why the modern system is increasingly being called not financial capitalism, but capitalism of capital management. Here, it doesn't matter who manufactures the product, who provides the service, or who sits in the president's chair. What matters is who controls the flows, the indexes, the funds, and the algorithms for redistributing money. It is here that a figure emerges, symbolizing the new era, not as an individual, but as the embodiment of the entire system. When you hear about the enormous sums managed by funds, your mind automatically tries to shrink them and make them abstract. Trillions stop being perceived as something real. But if you think about it, this is money that literally touches everything: food, energy, technology, medicine, war, ecology, climate, social movements, and future crises. This money is invested in everything and at the same time in nothing specific. It doesn't build factories or create products directly. It determines which factories will survive, which products will disappear, and which ideas will become mainstream. The power of such structures doesn't look like a dictatorship. It has no flags, anthems, or military parades. It doesn't need charismatic leaders or loud slogans. This is a cold, rational corporate power that operates through boards of directors, sustainability ratings, investment criteria, and recommendations that are impossible to refuse. Formally, no one is forcing anyone, but in reality, no one has a choice. When you're told that the market is free, that's only true on the surface. Deep down, the market has long been structured so that the big players set the rules for everyone else. Millions of small shareholders, pension funds, private investors, and depositors create the illusion of distributed ownership. But in reality, this ownership is consolidated through voting, funds, and management structures. It's as if millions of people each held a single stone, but someone gathered them all to build a dam and now controls the flow of the river. It's especially important to understand that such power doesn't require direct management. It operates indirectly. There's no need to call the CEO and order him to do something. It's enough to change investment criteria, hint at risks, revise a rating, or simply not support the board of directors. The system itself squeezes out dissenters and rewards the loyal. It's a self-regulating mechanism, where the fear of losing access to capital is stronger than any order. Add to this the close ties with global forums, international organizations, climate initiatives, and transnational bureaucracy, and you get a power that goes far beyond the realm of economics. This is no longer about money, it's about controlling the future. It's about which technologies will be developed, which countries will receive investments, which industries will be declared harmful, and which will be seen as saving the world. And all of this is served under the guise of caring for the planet, equality, and sustainable development. The most dangerous thing about this system is not even the concentration of capital, but the concentration of narrative. People are made to believe that everything happening is the natural course of history, inevitable progress, the only possible path. Any alternative is preemptively labeled as extremism, naivety, or a threat to stability. Questions stop being asked because the answers are already built into the very structure of thinking. That is precisely why this world is so stable. It is not held together by fear, but by habit. By the fact that people accept the rules of the game as a given. By the fact that numbers on a screen seem more real than actual consequences. By the fact that power has become faceless and therefore invisible. And while most people are discussing rising prices, mortgage rates, and yet another crisis, the real game continues on a level that the average person doesn't even look at. Let's set aside all the theories for a moment and just look at that very fragment, the one that actually makes it worth speaking out loud. Because the key issue that everyone is clashing over today, including central banks, isn't even inflation or interest rates. The main question is much deeper and more dangerous. How quickly should the financial system become fully digitalized, and what will happen to the world of money as we know it when this process becomes irreversible? Central bank digital currencies, asset tokenization, unified payment environments, all of this is presented as a technological upgrade, as the next logical step in evolution. But behind this facade lies a question that so far people are reluctant to ask directly. What will happen to the US dollar if every national currency turns into programmable digital code? If money ceases to be a neutral tool and becomes a managed protocol that changes the rules in real time? If all currencies become digital, the very need for traditional bank transfers will disappear. Payment systems that seemed unshakable for decades will suddenly become a redundant link. Why do we need intermediaries if a transaction goes directly through a state or supranational digital ledger? There are more questions than answers. And most troubling of all, these questions are being discussed in a narrow circle, without the participation of those who will be the first to feel the consequences. We are too caught up in talking about artificial intelligence as if it alone will determine the future of humanity. But at the same time, almost unnoticed, a much more fundamental process is underway: the tokenization of everything that has value. Money, stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, pension savings, all are gradually being converted into digital units. Not metaphorically, but literally, to the point where ownership of an asset will no longer be confirmed by a document or a right, but by an entry in a digital system. The idea of a single digital wallet through which a person manages all their assets sounds like a dream to some. One interface, complete control, instant transactions. But if you set aside the technological excitement, it becomes clear. Such a wallet is not freedom, but a concentration of risk. Everything in one place, everything under one key. And that key is not yours. A fully digital world means no cash, and no cash means no anonymity. Every purchase, every transfer of funds, every financial decision is recorded, analyzed, and matched to a person's digital profile. And all this is not in the future. It's already happening now. It's just that for now, it hasn't become mandatory and ubiquitous. And now, let's add to this the reality of the digital space we live in. Constant data leaks, hacks, cyber attacks, coding errors, human error. And imagine that your entire wealth, not just a part or a share, but absolutely everything, is stored in a single digital wallet. Not just money, but also access to services, assets, and rights. Your life turns into a set of records in a system that is formally transparent, but in reality does not belong to you. Now imagine the next step. All assets are tokenized. Property rights are no longer unconditional, they remain active only as long as the rules are followed. And the rules can change instantly without a court, without explanation, without the possibility of appeal. A single checkmark, a single flag in the system, and your access to the wallet will be restricted. Not forever, of course, just until the circumstances are clarified, which may not happen for years. And this is no longer science fiction, especially if the digital wallet is tightly linked to a digital personal identifier. Say something wrong, support the wrong narrative, buy the wrong product, display undesirable behavior, and suddenly the system stops being neutral. It becomes educational, regulatory, and punitive. In such a world, money ceases to be a means of freedom. They become a lever of discipline, a way to reward and punish quietly, without law enforcement and without visible repression. They simply cut off your access and that's it. You exist physically, but economically, you no longer exist. That is precisely why more and more truly wealthy people, those who understand how the system works from the inside, are looking for ways to be outside of it. Not to protest, not to fight, but simply not to be completely dependent. Real assets, alternative jurisdictions, physical property, gold, land, private structures, anything that can't be wiped out with the press of a single button. But that's a separate topic altogether.